If you are over 65 and eating this so-called healthy vegetable every single day, thinking you are doing something good for your body, stop for a moment and listen carefully. I hear this same concern almost every week in my practice. Doctor, I'm eating tons of vegetables. I'm doing everything right. Why am I still losing muscle mass? Just recently, a 68-year-old patient named Dorothy asked me exactly that. She had been following a plant-based diet for 3 years, eating salads daily, loading up on vegetables, avoiding processed foods. She was proud of her discipline. What shocked her was this: she had lost 12 pounds of muscle mass in just 18 months. Her grip strength had declined by 35%. She was not eating junk food. She was making one critical vegetable mistake that most seniors make without realizing it. New research shows that one very common dietary pattern, especially in health-conscious adults over 65, can accelerate muscle loss by disrupting protein absorption and creating nutritional imbalances when certain vegetables are consumed in excess. I'm Dr. Maria Hernandez, and in this video I will explain that mistake, why even the healthiest seniors overlook it, and the 5 proven strategies to protect and rebuild your muscle mass after 65 so you can stay strong, independent, and active for decades to come. Before we dive in, drop a comment with your age and where you're watching from today. Have you noticed muscle loss or weakness despite eating healthy? Are you consuming large amounts of raw vegetables thinking it's always beneficial? Write your answer below because your experience helps our entire community. And hit that subscribe button because I share life-saving nutrition strategies like this every week to help you thrive after 65. Most people believe that if they eat plenty of vegetables, especially raw leafy greens, they cannot possibly be harming their muscle health. But in adults over 65, that assumption is often dangerously wrong. The vegetable I'm talking about is raw spinach, and when consumed in large quantities every single day, it can silently sabotage your muscle mass in ways most people never suspect. Spinach is unique among vegetables. In its raw form, it contains extremely high levels of oxalates, compounds that bind to essential minerals like calcium, magnesium, and iron in your digestive tract. Without adequate mineral absorption, muscle function deteriorates rapidly. That is why eating massive raw spinach salads daily can be counterproductive. By the time weakness, muscle cramps, or balance problems appear, significant muscle loss may have already occurred. Here is the problem. As we age, our ability to build and maintain muscle becomes dramatically more difficult. By the age of 65, adults lose approximately 3 to 8% of muscle mass per decade. This condition, called sarcopenia, accelerates without proper nutrition. Our digestive systems become less efficient at absorbing nutrients. Our protein requirements actually increase, not decrease. Our bodies become more sensitive to anti-nutrients that block mineral absorption. Each nutritional mistake compounds the muscle loss process. I saw this clearly with one of my patients named Robert, age 71. He felt confused about his declining strength. He exercised regularly with light weights 3 times per week. He walked daily. He avoided sugar and processed foods. His wife prepared enormous raw spinach salads for lunch and dinner because they read that leafy greens prevent disease. He resisted my initial suggestion to modify his vegetable intake because he believed more vegetables always meant better health. When he finally agreed to detailed testing, the results were revealing. His magnesium levels were borderline deficient. His iron stores were depleted. His calcium absorption was poor despite adequate dietary intake. Blood work showed elevated markers of muscle breakdown. What most people do not realize is that raw spinach consumed in excess does not announce its harmful effects immediately. It does not cause obvious pain. It does not trigger instant weakness. It creates gradual mineral depletion while you think you are eating perfectly. In older adults, this pattern often continues for months or years until muscle loss becomes noticeable. Stairs become harder to climb. Getting up from chairs requires using armrests. Balance becomes unstable. Muscle cramps occur more frequently. By then, reversing the damage takes much longer than preventing it would have. This is why so many health-conscious seniors discover muscle loss late and face much harder recovery battles. Now, here is where the first major mistake happens. Most seniors assume that raw vegetables are always superior to cooked vegetables for health. They believe that cooking destroys nutrients and that eating everything raw maximizes benefits. But in people over 65, this approach often does not work for muscle preservation. Muscle protection requires strategic vegetable preparation, not just maximum raw vegetable consumption. With age, the digestive system's ability to break down tough plant fibers decreases. Enzyme production declines. Stomach acid production drops. Raw vegetables become harder to digest completely. Without complete digestion, nutrient extraction suffers. The oxalates in raw spinach bind minerals in your intestines before your body can absorb them. These bound minerals get excreted rather than utilized for muscle function. This is not rare. It is extremely common. That 68-year-old patient I mentioned earlier, Dorothy, was consuming nearly 6 cups of raw spinach daily between her breakfast smoothie, lunch salad, and dinner side dish. She genuinely believed she was optimizing her health. Same dedication, same discipline, same commitment to wellness. Yet her muscle mass was declining month after month. When we implemented the proper vegetable preparation protocol, not just raw vegetable maximization, her mineral levels normalized within 8 weeks. Her muscle synthesis markers improved. Her strength measurements began climbing for the first time in 2 years. This is why strategic nutrition matters just as much as healthy eating intentions. If you're finding this helpful, go ahead and hit that like button. It really supports the channel and helps us reach more seniors who need this information. Now let us talk about the first proven muscle protection strategy, and this one is extremely powerful. Method number 1 is understanding oxalate load and mineral bioavailability. If you look at most people's approach to vegetable consumption, they follow generic advice like eat more greens without considering nutrient absorption. They assume that consuming high amounts of any vegetable is always beneficial. But your body's ability to extract and use nutrients from vegetables depends heavily on preparation and combination. Oxalates are naturally occurring compounds found in many plant foods. Spinach contains some of the highest oxalate levels of any commonly consumed vegetable. 1 cup of raw spinach contains approximately 656 milligrams of oxalates. When consumed daily in large amounts, oxalates accumulate in your digestive system. These compounds chemically bind to calcium, magnesium, iron, and zinc. Once bound, your body cannot absorb these essential minerals. They pass through your system completely wasted. That assessment requires understanding which vegetables are high in oxalates and how cooking methods reduce oxalate content. In adults over 65, mineral absorption is already compromised by age-related digestive changes. Adding high oxalate loads makes the problem dramatically worse. I saw this with a patient named Catherine, age 69. She had been drinking green smoothies with raw spinach, kale, and chard every morning for 5 years. She prided herself on her dedication to health. She never missed a day. Her annual blood work showed progressive decline in magnesium despite taking supplements. She developed muscle cramps in her calves every night. Her bone density scan revealed accelerating bone loss. She never connected these problems to her daily green smoothie routine. When we reviewed her complete dietary pattern in detail, the oxalate overload was clear. We calculated that she was consuming more than 200 milligrams of oxalates daily just from her morning smoothie. Within 6 weeks of reducing raw spinach, switching to cooked greens, and spacing out high oxalate foods, her magnesium levels normalized. Her muscle cramps disappeared completely. Her next bone density scan 18 months later showed stabilization rather than continued loss. Without that oxalate assessment, she would have continued thinking her green smoothie was helping when it was actually harming her. Research shows that cooking spinach reduces oxalate content by 30 to 90% depending on the method. Boiling is most effective. Steaming reduces oxalates moderately. Sautéing helps but less than boiling. The oxalates leach into the cooking water. By discarding that water, you remove the majority of problematic compounds. Your body can then absorb the calcium, magnesium, and iron from the cooked spinach much more effectively. Another critical factor is understanding calcium oxalate binding. When you consume high calcium foods alongside high oxalate foods, the oxalates preferentially bind to that dietary calcium in your digestive tract rather than binding to calcium already in your body. This protective effect reduces both kidney stone risk and mineral depletion. Eating a small amount of cheese, yogurt, or milk with your cooked greens provides that protective calcium. There is also a dangerous misunderstanding about raw food superiority. Some people believe that any cooking destroys all nutritional value. In reality, cooking certain vegetables increases nutrient bioavailability. Lycopene in tomatoes becomes more absorbable when cooked. Beta-carotene in carrots is better absorbed from cooked carrots, and minerals in spinach are only accessible when oxalates are reduced through cooking. The key lesson here is simple. If you are over 65, assuming that raw vegetables are always best may cause you to unknowingly sabotage your muscle health. Strategic preparation allows maximum mineral absorption. Raw spinach in moderation is fine. Raw spinach in excess every single day creates cumulative problems. Now we come to the second proven method, and this one is critical for everyone over 65. Method number 2 is optimizing protein intake and timing for muscle synthesis. Many seniors either consume inadequate total protein or distribute it poorly throughout the day. They eat a small breakfast with minimal protein. They have a light lunch. They eat most of their protein at dinner. This pattern fails to trigger muscle protein synthesis effectively. Your muscles do not care about your eating preferences. Muscle synthesis requires specific protein amounts at specific times. I saw this pattern in a 74-year-old patient named James. He ate healthy foods and included protein at every meal. When we actually calculated his intake, he was consuming only 52 grams of protein daily. For his body weight of 165 pounds, he needed approximately 100 to 120 grams minimum to prevent muscle loss. He was eating less than half of his requirement. His breakfast contained 8 grams of protein from yogurt. His lunch had about 15 grams from a small chicken salad. His dinner included perhaps 29 grams from fish and vegetables. This distribution pattern failed to reach the threshold needed for muscle protein synthesis at any single meal. Research shows that older adults require approximately 25 to 40 grams of high-quality protein per meal to maximally stimulate muscle building. Anything less triggers minimal synthesis. When he restructured his protein intake to include 35 grams at breakfast, 35 grams at lunch, and 40 grams at dinner, his muscle mass measurement stabilized within 12 weeks. After 6 months of consistent higher protein intake, he actually gained 4 pounds of lean muscle mass. His strength increased across all measurements. Another overlooked issue is protein quality and leucine content. Not all protein sources are equally effective for muscle synthesis. Animal proteins contain complete amino acid profiles and high leucine content. Leucine is the specific amino acid that triggers the muscle-building signal in your cells. Plant proteins are often incomplete and lower in leucine. If you rely primarily on plant proteins, you need larger quantities to achieve the same muscle-building effect. For most seniors, the essential protein strategy includes consuming 1.2 to 1.6 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight daily. For a 150-pound person, that equals approximately 82 to 109 grams daily. Distributing that protein across 3 meals with 25 to 40 grams per meal. Prioritizing high-quality protein sources like eggs, Greek yogurt, fish, chicken, lean beef, and whey protein, including a protein-rich snack if appetite is poor at meals. Consuming protein within 2 hours after resistance exercise when muscle synthesis is elevated. The exact amount depends on activity level, current muscle mass, and overall health status. Finally, many seniors reduce protein intake thinking it protects kidney function. For healthy older adults without existing kidney disease, higher protein intake does not harm kidneys. Age alone should not determine protein restriction. Adequate protein is essential for maintaining independence, preventing falls, and preserving metabolic health. I had a patient aged 79 who increased her protein from 45 grams daily to 95 grams daily over 3 months. She combined this with twice-weekly resistance training. Her muscle mass increased by 5 pounds. Her walking speed improved significantly. Her balance test scores improved. Her risk of falls decreased substantially. That protein optimization changed her trajectory from progressive weakness toward maintained strength and independence. By this point, you may realize something important. Most seniors are not intentionally eating inadequate protein. They are following outdated nutritional beliefs or simply not calculating their actual intake. Each day of insufficient protein accelerates muscle loss. Over months and years, These deficits create significant weakness and frailty. Together with high oxalate loads from raw spinach, the muscle loss compounds rapidly. Now, let me walk you through the third proven muscle protection strategy. This is the approach I use with my own patients over 65. Method number 3 is strategic resistance training combined with anti-inflammatory nutrition. For most seniors, diet alone cannot fully prevent muscle loss. But emerging research shows that specific resistance exercise patterns combined with anti-inflammatory foods can reverse sarcopenia even in adults over 70. These are active muscle-building interventions. Your muscles respond to mechanical stress by growing stronger and larger, regardless of age. Older training methods focused on light weights and high repetitions. Newer research shows that progressive resistance with heavier loads produces superior results. You must challenge your muscles beyond their current capacity. This alone can dramatically improve muscle mass and strength in just 8 to 12 weeks. The resistance training approach includes 3 key components. First, frequency and consistency matter more than intensity. Training each major muscle group twice per week produces better results than once weekly. Sessions do not need to be long. 3 30-minute sessions weekly targeting all major muscle groups is sufficient. Consistency over months and years matters most. Missing weeks or training sporadically produces minimal results. Second, progressive overload is essential. Your muscles adapt to whatever stress you place on them. If you lift the same weights month after month, your muscles have no reason to grow. You must gradually increase either the weight, the repetitions, or the number of sets over time. Even small increases like adding 2 pounds or doing 1 additional repetition creates the growth stimulus your muscles need. Third, compound movements provide maximum benefit. Exercises that use multiple muscle groups simultaneously like squats, rows, chest presses, and deadlift variations produce better results than isolation exercises. These movements also improve functional strength for daily activities like carrying groceries, climbing stairs, and getting up from chairs. A common effective approach is performing 2 to 3 sets of 8 to 12 repetitions of 4 to 6 compound exercises twice weekly. Some people need lighter loads initially, then progress gradually. Fourth, understanding recovery requirements. Older adults need slightly longer recovery between training sessions. Muscles grow during rest periods, not during workouts. Training the same muscles on consecutive days prevents adequate recovery. Spacing sessions, 48 to 72 hours apart, allows complete recovery and growth. Sleep quality directly impacts muscle recovery. Poor sleep impairs muscle protein synthesis, even with adequate protein intake. Fifth, nutrition timing around training. Consuming 25 to 40 grams of high-quality protein within 2 hours after resistance training maximizes muscle protein synthesis during the recovery window. This post-workout protein is even more critical for older adults than younger people. Missing this window wastes much of the training stimulus. Sixth, anti-inflammatory nutrition support. Chronic inflammation interferes with muscle protein synthesis. High-sugar diets, excessive omega-6 fatty acids, and processed foods promote inflammation. Anti-inflammatory foods like fatty fish, rich in omega-3s, colorful vegetables, berries, olive oil, and nuts support muscle recovery and growth. Seventh, hydration status affects muscle function. Even mild dehydration impairs strength and endurance. Older adults have reduced thirst sensation. Drinking adequate water throughout the day, approximately 8 glasses minimum, supports muscle function and recovery. I had a patient age 72 who followed this combined protocol. She had never lifted weights before in her life. She was nervous about injury. We started her with very light dumbbells and bodyweight exercises. She trained twice weekly for 30 minutes with a qualified trainer. She consumed 30 grams of whey protein immediately after each workout. She ate an anti-inflammatory Mediterranean-style diet rich in fish, vegetables, olive oil, and nuts. After 4 months, her muscle mass increased by 6 pounds. Her strength doubled on several exercises. Her balance and confidence improved dramatically. She told me she felt more capable at 72 than she had at 68. That combination of resistance training and strategic nutrition gave her independence she thought was gone forever. At this point, it is important to understand one critical truth. Muscle building in older adults is powerful, but it requires consistent effort. there are situations where even perfect training and nutrition will not completely reverse decades of muscle loss immediately. One of the most common issues is extremely sedentary history. If you have not used your muscles actively for 20 or 30 years, rebuilding takes time. Progress happens, but gradually. Patience and consistency are essential. Another overlooked factor is hormonal changes. Declining testosterone in men and estrogen in women reduces muscle building capacity. Hormone levels affect how quickly muscles respond to training. Some older adults benefit from medical evaluation of hormone status. Chronic diseases are another silent contributor. Uncontrolled diabetes, thyroid disorders, and inflammatory conditions impair muscle synthesis. Managing underlying health conditions improves training response.